Hello, and welcome to the True Crime Lounge. Today we are going to be talking about Ernesto Miranda and the Miranda rights. We're going to be talking about why we have it, what led up to this. But before I get started, I want you to hit that like button, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, comment. Also check out that merch shop listed down below. And then we'll get started, shall we? So I'm going to kind of divide this video into like a two-parter, but it's still going to be one video. Does that make sense? Okay. So for this first part, we're going to talk about what led up to the Miranda rights um being questioned and how police now have to say it when we get arrested. So Ernesto Miranda is a Mexican immigrant living in Phoenix, Arizona, and was identified in a police lineup by a woman who accused him of kidnapping and raping her. She was arrested and questioned by the police. Miranda was arrested and questioned by the police for 2 hours until he confessed to the crime. During the interrogation, police did not tell Miranda about his Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination or his Sixth Amendment right to an attorney. The case went to trial in the Arizona State Court, and the prosecutor used a confession as evidence against him. Miranda, who was convicted and sentenced to 20 to 30 years in prison, he had appealed the case in the Arizona Supreme Court, which upheld the conviction. He then appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, which agreed to hear along with 4 similar cases. In taking the case, the court had determined that the police role have in protecting the rights of the accused guaranteed by the Fifth and Sixth Amendments. So what was the decision? Well, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4 in favor of Miranda. This decision gave rise to what we know now as Miranda warnings. While jurisdictions have their own regulations as to precise warning given to the person interrogated in police custody, the typical warning state. The typical warning. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney if you cannot afford one. You know how it goes. So what is Miranda v. Arizona? Well, in Miranda v. Arizona in 1966, the Supreme Court ruled that detained suspect criminals prior to questioning must be informed of their constitutional right to an attorney and against self-incrimination. This case began with the 1963 arrest in Phoenix residence with Ernesto Miranda, who was charged with rape, kidnapping, and robbery. Miranda was not informed of his rights prior to police interrogation. During the 2-hour interrogation, he allegedly confessed to committing the crimes, which the police apparently recorded, who had not finished 9th grade and had a history of mental instability and had no counsel present. At trial, the prosecution's case consisted solely on his confession. Miranda was convicted of rape, both rape and kidnapping, sentenced to 20-30 years in prison. He would appeal this in the Arizona Supreme Court, that the police had unconstitutionally obtained his confession. The court disagreed, however, and upheld the conviction. However, he appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, which was reviewed in 1966. The Supreme Court 5-4, written by Chief Earl Warren, ruled that the prosecution could not introduce Miranda's confession as evidence in criminal trial because the police had failed to first inform Miranda of his right to an attorney and against self-incrimination. The police duty to give these warnings is compelled by the Constitution's Fifth Amendment, which gives criminal suspects the right to refuse to be witness against himself, and the Sixth Amendment, which guarantees criminal defendants to the right to an attorney. The court maintained that the defendant's right against the self-incrimination have long been part of Anglo-American law, and is means to equalize vulnerability and inherent in such detained. Such a position, unchecked, can lead to government abuse. For example, the court cited that the continued high incidence of police violence designed to compel confessions for a suspect, this and other forms of intimidation maintained in court, deprive criminal suspects of their basic liberties can lead to false confessions. The defendant's right to an attorney is equally a fundamental right, because the presence of an attorney in interrogations, according to Chief Justice Warren, enables defendants under otherwise compelling circumstances tell his story without fear, effectively and in a way that eliminates the evils in the interrogation process. Without these two fundamental rights, both of which the court ruled dispel the compulsion inherent of custodial surroundings, no statement obtained from the defendant can truly be the product of his free choice. Thus, to protect these rights in the face of widespread ignorance of the law, the court devised statements that the police are required to tell a defendant who is being detained. These mandatory Miranda rights begin with the right to remain silent and continues with the statement anything said can and will be used against you in a court of law. In a court of law. The police are further compelled to inform the suspect of his or her rights to an attorney and allow for, or if necessary, provide a defendant's attorney who can accompany him during these interrogations, because none of these rights were afforded to Ernesto Miranda in his confession, and thus unconstitutionally omitted at trial. His conviction was reversed. Miranda was later retried and convicted without the omission of the confession. So Miranda v. Arizona, in creating the Miranda rights we take for granted today, reconciled the increased police powers of the state with the basic rights of individuals. Miranda remains good law today. Alright, that's it. I will check y'all next time.